listeners, and welcome to episode 116 of the Nigeria Football Weekly podcast. Me, your host, Olu Oke. I'm testing a new setup, so bear with me in the way things look, but I hope that the quality of the audio and the sound and the visuals is much better on this new setup. So what am I going to be talking about today? Of course, the Africa Cup of Nations group stage draw was made on Monday, and I must say Nigeria got quite a favorable draw. So what do we know so far? The Africa Cup of Nations for 2025 will be held in Morocco from December 21st, 2025, so in about 11 months time, and will go up until January 18th, 2026. So a lot can change. We know a year of football is like a lifetime, so look out for that one. But Nigeria have been drawn into Group C, where we will play Tunisia, Uganda, and Tanzania. So I'm doing a quick rundown on these opponents that we'll be facing, and then also touching on the other AFCON groups. So, I mean, if you just look at the group in its initial, phase, you have to say Nigeria are strong favorites in this group. You know, there should be no excuse to not get 9 points from 9 in this game, to be honest. Obviously, Tunisia were drawn out of Pot 2, so Nigeria were in Pot 1 as one of the top 6 seeded teams in Africa. Tunisia will always be a tough game. Let's not make any mistake about that. Tunisia are no slouches by any means or shape or form, you know. However, you have to say that Nigeria is the far better team, and we would expect our team to perform really well in this game against the Cranes of Tunisia. What do we know about Tunisia right now? They're ranked 52nd in the world. Their star player is Youssef Msakni. He's their second most capped player, third highest goal scorer in their history. Midfielder. He's now 34, so it's touch and go for the tournament. He may or he may not play for that tournament. They also have a player called Elis Skiri. So he's got 70 caps and 3 goals, and he plays for Eintracht Frankfurt. So he's one of the better players within the Tunisian team. And of course, we know Hannibal Medri, who came to the Manchester United Academy, but currently plays for Burnley in the Championship. At the moment, they have no coach, so that's another thing to just look out for in terms of their current situation. AFCON qualification was fairly straightforward for them, but not too straightforward. They qualified in second place in their group behind Comoros. So Tunisia won 3 out of their 6 games. They drew 1 and they lost 2. In fact, the best thing you can say about Tunisia, I mean, it's very wobbly. They even lost at home to Comoros. So even though Tunisia, we know we usually do well in these tournaments, especially when it's in North Africa, it has to be said that right now, Tunisia's group of players is not the best that they've had in their history at all. In fact, I'll say it's probably one of their weakest in a minute, even though they're doing fairly well in World Cup qualifiers. So just note that. However, to still come out of a group with Gambia and Comoros, they must be commended. But they lost 2 of their home games. They lost at home to Gambia and they lost at home to Comoros. 1-0, 1-0 both times. Tunisia's games are very, very low scoring, you know. Yes, they beat Madagascar away 3-2. And they beat Gambia 2-1 away. But all their games are 1-0, 2-1, 1-1. So it's going to be a very low-scoring affair. So if we can score the first goal in this game, I feel like we'll definitely get the better of the Tunisians in this game. It won't be the first game anyway. I think we play Tanzania first, so look out for that one. In World Cup qualifying, Tunisia are doing okay. They don't really joke around World Cup qualifiers. So out of 4 games so far, they've won 3 and they've drawn 1. So they're in pole position to qualify for the World Cup. So we have to take that into mind because it's going to affect their morale when they play Nigeria, and they should be in good spirits if they qualify for the World Cup. And we know at the moment Nigeria is still Higi-Haga for us, so let's see what happens in that one. Moving on to the head-to-head. Our head-to-head with Tunisia is not great, actually. We've played them a total of 21 times. We've beaten them 6 times. We've drawn with them 8 times, and they've beaten us 7 times. So almost neck and neck in the whole thing. Obviously, the most memorable one that we all remember is the AFCON in 2021 AFCON that was played in January 2022, when Nigeria had 9 points from our first 3 games, and we played Tunisia in the round of 16. And then Olu Oke made a mistake, which meant Tunisia won 1-0. Iwobi got sent off. Osimhen did not play in that tournament. Obviously, we rectified that in last year's AFCON by going to the final. But I'm sure a lot of Nigerians would still love to get revenge for that loss. In fact, that was our first loss against the Tunisians since the 2004 Africa Cup of Nations, where we lost to them in the quarterfinal, or was it the semi-final? No, the semi-final, sorry, because that AFCON, Okocha scored for us and we beat Cameroon very well. That was Osaze's debut tournament for Nigeria. Tunisia, you remember, hosted that tournament and went all the way to the final and actually won the tournament in 2004. So since that 2004, we did not lose to Tunisia until that game that Maduka played in. So you have to say that Nigeria, we should still expect to be beating Tunisia, and I expect no less, even though the game is going to be in Morocco. Moving on to Uganda. Uganda, to be honest, Uganda and Tunisia, no disrespect to these two Uganda and Tanzania, no disrespect to these two countries, but Nigeria, we should be whitewashing you guys. I know you both are going to host the next Africa Cup of Nations after Morocco in 2027, alongside with Kenya. So they would love to put on a quite good showing in this tournament in preparation for that tournament. But make no mistake about it, Nigeria now still be big boys we be, man. So we got to show these teams, man. I don't want to hear no excuses. Uganda are ranked 88th in the world. Majority of their players play in the domestic league. They have a striker called Dennis Omedi. He's got 2 goals in 10 caps for Uganda, but those 2 goals were in qualifying for this AFCON. They've got a Belgian coach, Paul Pot. I saw his interview after the draw where he was giving respect to Nigeria, rightfully so. But I'm sure he'll feel confident that Uganda and Tanzania would hope to be able to beat Tunisia on a given day or even qualify as the 3rd best placed team in the group. So watch out for that one. AFCON qualifying, it must be said, Uganda qualified very well. They played 6 games, they won 4, they drew 1 and they lost 1. Their only loss, I believe, was to South Africa. They lost to South Africa 2-0 at home, which is fair enough. And in fact, when they went South Africa's home, it took a last-minute equalizer from the South Africans to draw 2-2. Uganda were on their way to winning this game 2-1. And then when they played Republic of Congo and South Sudan, you have to say Uganda dispatched them quite easily. So Uganda are one to be watched. We must not take them for granted in this tournament. However, in World Cup qualifying, Uganda are currently struggling, although they've got quite a tight group. They've got 2 wins and 2 draws from their first 4 games. They're in the same group as Algeria, Mozambique, Botswana, Guinea, and Uganda. And Somalia are the bottom team in this group, but all 5 teams either have 6 points at the moment or 9 points at the moment. So this is going to be one to watch, and it's going to go down to the wire. So you never know. Uganda might even make the World Cup, but I'll still put my money on Algeria in this group. Head-to-head, interestingly enough, our head-to-head against Uganda is terrible. We've played Uganda 8 times, and we've lost 4 times. We've drawn twice, and we've won twice. In fairness, 4 of those losses, 1 came in 1978, 1 came in 1981, so I don't even know if that one counts. But somehow, they also beat us in Africa Cup of Nations qualifier in June 2007. And in an international friendly in 2015. In fact, the last time we played Uganda was in 2018 and we drew against them 0-0. So there's a lot to be rectified there. We've only beaten them twice, once in 1992 2-0 and once in the year 2007 1-0. So Nigeria, please don't disgrace me. Uganda are no match for us. I don't know if they have this head-to-head to us, but we need to show them pepper when the time comes, please. I don't want to hear those stories, guys. So fingers crossed that's how it's going to go when we play Uganda. And finally, Tanzania. Tanzania will be making their 4th appearance at an African Cup of Nations. You know, they're definitely what you would call minnows on the African soil. They're ranked 106th in the world. They do have a star player. You guys remember Mbwana Samata. He played a half a season in the Premier League for Aston Villa. He also went to Fenerbahce and he now plays at PAOK, although he's 34 years old, so one to watch. At the moment, they have an interim coach, Hemed Morocco, so watch out for that one. And as I said, they'll be desperate to shine alongside Uganda because they're both going to be co-hosting the next Africa Cup of Nations alongside Kenya. In World Cup qualifying, Tanzania actually doing okay so far, you know. In the AFCON qualifying, they did pretty well. They had 6 games. They won 3, they drew 1, and they lost 2 in the same group as DR Congo. They actually qualified ahead of Guinea, who have Naby Keita and Cyril Guirassy. So imagine that Guinean journalist that was angry when Lookman won AFCON. African Football of the Year. Imagine Cyril Guirassy could not even fire Guinea to AFCON qualification, and you are saying you want to be best player at the time in the continent. Sorry, get out of here. You're chatting rubbish as far as I'm concerned. So anyway, decent results for Tanzania here. They even beat Guinea away 2-1. You know, so that's quite an interesting one to notice. But to be honest, Nigeria, we should be whitewashing them. So good luck to Tanzania when they come and play us. World Cup qualification, they're in with the chance as well. They're in the same group as Morocco. Morocco have won all their games so far, so I'd expect Morocco to run to qualification. However, they're currently joined second alongside Niger with 2 wins from their first 3 games. So they may be able to snag one of the best second place spots and play in a Confederation playoff. They're head-to-head against Nigeria. Really, really bad for Tanzania. We've played them 8 times. We've beaten them 5 times, and we've drawn 3 times. and the last time we played them was in 2016 in a 1-0 win for the Super Eagles. Moving on to my general draw thoughts, I think it was quite a good draw. There's quite a lot of good games for us to watch out for during this Africa Cup of Nations. Group A has the host Morocco, who play alongside Mali, Zambia, and Comoros. Group B's got Egypt alongside South Africa, Angola, and Zimbabwe. I've already mentioned our Group C. Then we'll see Group D with Senegal, DR Congo, Benin Republic, and Botswana. Group E consists of Algeria, Burkina Faso, Equatorial Guinea, and Sudan, with Group F rounding up the draw with Cote d'Ivoire, Cameroon, Gabon, and Mozambique. So I think there's at least 4 groups here where they're quite tasty ties, and I think Nigeria, we've been given the best group out of all the top seeds. You know, Group A with Morocco and Mali, that's going to be a heavyweight clash. Comoros can always spring a surprise, as we've seen them do in the recent AFCON tournaments. Group B with Egypt, South Africa, and Angola. All 3 teams made the quarterfinals of the last AFCON. Forgive me if Egypt went out of the round of 16, but didn't Egypt go out? It was Ghana that went out. I know Egypt did not do that well. But South Africa and Angola. South Africa finished third. Angola, we had to beat them in the quarterfinals. So remember Mabululu. So that's going to be a very tough group. Even Group D, Senegal, Congo, and Benin, all West African teams, and on any given day, they could show each other shege. Actually, DR Congo is not really West Africa. It's more like Central Africa, but you get my point. And then even Group F, I think Group F is one to watch out for. Ivory Coast, Cameroon, Gabon. Mozambique are much better than people think as well. So watch out for this game. Of course, when AFCON comes around, we'll do a much bigger preview, and it should be nice and entertaining for everyone's viewing pleasure. So look out for that when the time comes. Who do I think will be a surprise team? Not really a surprise team, but I think Algeria will have a much better AFCON compared to the last 2 that they've had. They're going to be in familiar territory in the north of Africa, and I think they have a settled team where they also have quite a good number of dual nationals coming through in their team in the form of Amin Giri and co. So watch out for them in this tournament. I also think Gabon and South Africa should continue to do well. They will surprise people. You know, it's Aubameyang's last chance to do something well for his country, apart from making the World Cup. And we all know how settled the South Africans are. You know, hopefully we can dim their lights by making sure we qualify for the World Cup ahead of them. But make no mistake about it, South Africa are a very, very good team, and we must be wary playing them. Minnows who could shock, I think Mozambique. When you look at how they're doing in World Cup qualifying, and they have a pretty settled team. Remember how they also played in the last AFCON when they gave Egypt and Ghana a very, very strong run for their money. So look out for Mozambique. I think there's 4 favorites in this tournament. 2 North African teams, Morocco and Egypt. I think Egypt have the ability to win the tournament. Morocco are the hosts. They haven't won an AFCON since 1976, so they'll be desperate to impress. And I think the 2 West African nations with the best chances of winning, Senegal, you can never underrate Senegal. You know, Mane is still doing well. They still have a core group of, you know, veterans in their team, while having the likes of Lamine Camara, Ismail Assar, Pape Matsar, you know, a good amount of youngsters to also complement the old brigade. And of course, I think Nigeria, we have to say that we're one of the favorites, despite how our World Cup qualifiers have gone. You know, we made the final in a very hostile Cote d'Ivoire. Yes, we lost the final, but if you play that game 10 times out of 10 times, I think we win 9. If Pesero just has less defensive tactics, you know. So I think Nigeria, it's time for us to go one step further, like Joseph Yobo said in the draw, and bring home the trophy. Who do I think play of tournament? I mean, I cannot bet against our players. I think Victor Osimhen, it's time to rise again. You know, he'll probably be playing in the Premier League by the time the tournament comes, hopefully. Lookman may also have moved clubs. I just want to see our players take the next step up, whether it's the Chrisantos Uches of the world, the Rafael Yedikas, or even our centre-backs, you know, the Bassis, the Ola and us. I hope they continue to impress and improve, which means that by the time the tournament comes, hopefully we'll have also qualified for the World Cup. So our players be feeling much more confident about playing, which should help with our input and impact at the tournament. So that's it in terms of the African Cup of Nations. Of course, next time we speak about Nigeria will be the World Cup qualifiers in March, where we play Rwanda and Zimbabwe. And Eric Chelle also mentioned in his post-draw interview that he's focused on the World Cup qualifiers, rightfully so. So good luck to the Super Eagles, and I cannot wait. Hopefully we'll even be able to go to Morocco. So watch this space.